Want to sound less textbook and more like a native speaker? These advanced expressions will elevate your English in seconds. Welcome to English Luminaries with Sahar, your space to master real powerful English. In today's compilation, we're diving into expressions and phrases that fluent speakers use effortlessly. Ready to upgrade your vocabulary and impress in every conversation? Let's jump right in. Let's begin with this expression, which is amazing. Blow hot and cold, which means to frequently change opinions or feelings about something. For example, her attitude towards the project blows hot and cold, leaving the team confused. He's blowing hot and cold about the new job offer.
You've been blowing hot and cold all night.
Look, honey, you've been blowing hot and cold all through this deal.
Let's stay steady and move right into the next expression, a phrase about knowing when to quit. Throw in the towel. Throw in the towel means to give up or quit. After a month of struggling, he finally threw in the towel and closed the business. Don't throw in the towel just yet. Success could be right around the corner.
I suppose a gentleman might throw in the towel at this point.
People who are ready to throw in the towel are finding inspiration in their new hero, Jim Braddock.
And now on to the powerful warning. When the signs are clear, don't ignore the writing on the wall. The writing on the wall, which is a clear indication that something bad is going to happen. The company ignored the writing on the wall and ended up filing for bankruptcy. The team saw the writing on the wall when their star player got injured.
Because I see the writing on the wall and it scares the hell out of me.
That little remark could be the writing on the wall.
Feeling the impact? Let's talk about how setbacks can sometimes take the wind out of your sails. To take the wind out of somebody's sails, which means to make someone feel less confident or enthusiastic. Her criticism really took the wind out of his sails. Losing the game in the final minutes took the wind out of their sails.
Kind of took the wind out of my sails.
But you kind of took the wind out of my sails.
Time to refocus. Let's explore an expression that is all about seeing all of your hard work pay off. Come to fruition, which means to be realized or completed successfully. Years of hard work finally came to fruition when she published her book. Their plans to expand internationally are coming to fruition.
And you know, now all those years of work have come to fruition with Bash Life.
I'm sure you've done splendid work, but unfortunately it can't come to fruition.
Now let's look at accepting those inevitable situations. Resign yourself to the fact. To accept something unpleasant but unavoidable. He resigned himself to the fact that he'd have to work overtime. You need to resign yourself to the fact that not everything will go as planned.
You must resign yourself to the fact that there's not the slightest hope that he's still alive.
Ready to get bold? Here's one about standing firm and not letting others run roughshod over you. Run roughshod over someone, which means to act without regard for others' feelings or rights. He ran roughshod over everyone's opinions during the meeting. Don't let them run roughshod over your ideas.
You have to plan for babies, otherwise they'll just run roughshod over your entire existence.
You have run roughshod over this office for 20 years, and that's over.
Feeling the tension? Let's lighten it up with a metaphor about disruption. Knock over the beaker, which means to cause a disruption literally or figuratively. Her sudden decision knocked over the beaker of their carefully laid plans. Let's not knock over the beaker by rushing things. Now it's time to tap into your resources with this next expression. To tap into something. To access or make use of a resource. For example, you need to tap into your potential to succeed in this role. The company is tapping into new markets to grow.
We got to tap into the security system, which can be accessed in the prince's bedroom.
We tap into something deeper, into the player's identity, into that.
Finally, here's an expression about avoiding self-deception. Don't delude yourself into thinking. Delude yourself into something. To deceive yourself into believing something untrue. Don't delude yourself into thinking success comes without hard work. She deluded herself into believing he would change. Here's a good one. A mile a minute. To speak or do something very quickly and energetically. She was so excited about her trip that she started talking a mile a minute. The salesman talks a mile a minute. It's hard to keep up with him.
He's down there talking to himself a mile a minute.
My mind was racing a mile a minute.
Our next expression gives you the composure that you need to deal with everything. To have ice in their veins, which means to remain calm and composed under pressure or in a stressful situation. Even during the penalty shootout, the goalkeeper had ice in his veins and saved the goal. She's an incredible surgeon. She has ice in her veins during critical operations.
This guy got ice in his veins when he's up at bat.
Plus, Blizzard is creating a storm of emotions for Darcy, who already has ice in her veins.
Now, just like that, let's jump straight into our next expression. It's all about delivering a powerful impact straight to your dome. To directly impact or affect your mind or understanding. The motivational speech went straight to my dome. I felt so inspired. That plot twist hit me straight to the dome. I never saw it coming. Now buckle up. It's time to get fierce. Let's dive into a bold, assertive expression. Go for the throat. To attack someone very aggressively, either physically or verbally, often to achieve dominance or success. The lawyer went for the throat during the cross-examination. In the final minutes of the debate, she went for the throat and left no room for rebuttal.
I've got to go for the throat, Cass, because of all the people in all the casinos in all the world.
Ripple effect, the continuing and spreading result of an action or event. For example, his decision to help the village created a ripple effect that improved countless lives. The ripple effect of the economic crisis was left worldwide.
You can literally track the ripple effect of that action across a 200-mile stretch of road.
Exorbitant, unreasonably high or excessive, especially in price. The merchant's exorbitant demands made him unpopular among the townsfolk. I couldn't afford the exorbitant rent in the city center.
Professor Walsh says adrenaline is like exercise, but without the exorbitant gym fees.
Not at someone to cause persistent anxiety or worry. The thought of betraying his values gnawed at him. Guilt began to gnaw at her after she made the decision.
Yet my fears and doubts still gnaw at me like rats.
Shape destiny. To influence the course of one's life or future. His humility shaped his destiny in ways he never imagined. Each choice we make helps to shape our destiny.
Our ability as rational actors to shape our destiny is limited to our rational actions,
and our rational reactions are based on what we know about the world.
Foreboding, a feeling that something bad will happen. For example, the eerie silence in the room filled him with foreboding. The dark clouds created a sense of foreboding before the storm.
When the phone rang, I had a foreboding of disaster.
Intertwined, closely connected or linked together. Their lives became intertwined after the pivotal moment. History and cultures are deeply intertwined in this region.
Look, I know you don't want our lives intertwined, but things have changed.
Impartial, treating all equally, unbiased. For example, time is impartial. It waits for no one. A good judge must remain impartial during a trial.
Well, I think we should let Phoebe decide because she's the only one who's impartial and she's so pretty.
Impart, to communicate or convey information, knowledge, or wisdom. He tried to impart wisdom to his students through storytelling. The painting imparts a sense of calm to anyone who sees it.
Dirk's a great kid, and I'm just trying to impart some of the experiences I've accrued to help him.
Wield, to hold or use power, influence, or an object effectively. He wielded authority with confidence and fairness. The knight wielded his sword with unmatched skill.
You could file an official complaint. Captain Holt would wield that like a hammer and crush the guy.
Throw, to propel something through the air or to confuse someone. The sudden question threw her off guard. He threw the ball across the field effortlessly.
I got you a present, and now I'm gonna throw it in the garbage.
On the horizon. On the horizon means likely to happen or appear in the near future. For example, with groundbreaking discoveries in medicine, a cure for a certain disease might be on the horizon.
But in recent days, a cloud has appeared on the horizon of this beautiful resort community.
Any major investments on the horizon at all?
But sometimes what's on the horizon requires bold actions. Which brings us to our next expression, take a leap of faith. It means to do something risky or uncertain, trusting in a positive outcome. Starting her own business was a leap of faith, but it turned her life around.
I'm asking you to take a leap of faith.
I mean, I know that this is scary, but sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith, you know?
Speaking of bold moves, let's talk about having a clear plan for the future. A vision for the future. A clear and ambitious idea of what you want to achieve. Her vision for the future includes a greener, more sustainable planet.
I'd like to present the board my vision for the future of Apple.
The only thing that matters is that you have the same vision for the future.
But having a vision is not enough. You need to prepare for what's coming. Here's how to express that in English. Future proof. Future proof means to design or plan something to remain relevant or functional in the future. Learning advanced tech skills is a great way to future-proof your career.
They want to future-proof their design whilst keeping it contemporary and yet reassuringly retro.
Of course, staying relevant requires the ability to anticipate change. Let's explore a word for that. Foresight. Foresight is the ability to predict or prepare for future needs or challenges. Thanks to his foresight, the company thrived during the economic downturn.
Oh, Mikey, you never showed them the foresight, did you?
If he had the foresight to bring gloves with him, how the hell is he going to accidentally leave a print behind?
And when you are ready to lead the way, there is another expression to help you describe progress. Pave the way. To prepare for something or make progress easier for others. Her groundbreaking research paved the way for major scientific advancements.
Her lawsuit helped pave the way for women boxers everywhere.
And I can't sacrifice this opportunity to pave the way for Kathy Durant.
But what if your plans are uncertain? Let's tackle an expression for that next. Up in the air. Up in the air means undecided or uncertain. Their vacation plans are still up in the air because of work commitments. Uncertainty can be frustrating, but when you're determined, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. There's no limit to what someone can achieve. With her drive and determination, the sky's the limit for her career.
The sky is the limit for you, my little lady killer.
So we get that crown on your head, baby. The sky is the limit.
Now let's shift to a phrase about the mysteries of the future. What the future holds. It refers to the unknown events or possibilities of the future. No one knows what the future holds, but it's exciting to imagine.
Nobody knows what the future holds, my friend.
There's just no limit to what the future holds for this kid.
From mysteries, let's move to a phrase that describes leadership in the future. At the forefront of something, which means to be leading or in a prominent position. This startup is at the forefront of artificial intelligence.
Our satellite network is at the forefront of our national defense.
I feel that your client base is at the forefront of medical technology.
And when you're leading, your impact may stand the test of time. Stand the test of time, which means to remain valuable or relevant despite changing circumstances. Great literature stands the test of time, inspiring generations.
And why it stands the test of time.
Love that stands the test of time.
But sometimes starting fresh is just as important as preserving the past. A clean slate. A clean slate means a fresh start or opportunity to begin anew. After moving to a new city, she saw it as a clean slate to reinvent herself. A fresh start often comes with transformative moments. Let's explore one powerful phrase. A game changer. A game changer is something that significantly alters the way things are done. Electric cars are a game changer for the automobile industry.
He was talking about finding something new, a game changer.
Suit yourself, but I'm telling you right now, it's a game changer.
And when you are planning ahead, you're essentially charting a course for the future. Chart a course, which means to plan or decide the direction for the future. She's charting a course toward a more inclusive workplace.
Okay, Rex, let's chart a course and take a closer look.
Lastly, let's discuss how impactful actions can influence generations. Cast a long shadow, which means to have a significant and lasting impact. His leadership casts a long shadow, shaping the company for decades to come.
Despite their accomplishments, personal tragedy cast a long shadow over their work.
Draining, oppressive environment. This is an expression which means a work setting that is emotionally or mentally exhausting and stifling. For example, the constant pressure and a lack of support created a draining, oppressive environment that made it hard to stay motivated.
I mean, it's just so painful and draining.
The house with only us here was unbearably oppressive for him.
Hotbed of mediocrity. A place where average or subpar work is the norm. For example, the office had become a hotbed of mediocrity where no one was pushing themselves to excel.
The Islamic State is not exactly a hotbed of scientific expertise.
You join the sacred timeline, and you end your days of insignificance and mediocrity.
Unspoken hierarchies. This expression refers to systems of power or influence in a group that are not officially acknowledged but are clearly understood. For example, despite the team being supposed equals, there are unspoken hierarchies that determined who had the most influence.
Rather than allow these unspoken thoughts to die with me, I've chosen to record them here for you.
For God's sake, Stephen, there's hierarchies even in nature, as you've often said yourself.
Personal growth was stifled. This expression means the development and advancement in one's career or skills was suppressed. For example, in that company, personal growth was stifled by rigid procedures and a lack of creative freedom.
I feel stifled in there.
It's what you are that's being stifled.
Unwavering dedication. This expression means showing commitment or effort without hesitation or doubt. Her unwavering dedication to her job kept her working long hours despite the lack of appreciation.
I'm sure Hank appreciates your unwavering devotion.
Well, I think dedication should be rewarded.
Cogs in the machine. This idiom means individuals who are seen as just part of a larger system, often with a little personal significance. For example, the employees were just cogs in the machine working endlessly without any sense of individual accomplishment.
Maybe just accept the fact that we'll always be cogs in the machine.
Wow, just cogs in the machine, you know?
Invisible. This adjective means not seen or acknowledged, overlooked. For example, no matter how hard I worked, I felt invisible in the eye of my superiors.
I don't send you to kill. I send you to be invisible.
Ritualistic celebration. This expression means a formal, almost obligatory celebration that is expected to be a part of a routine. For example, the ritualistic celebration was more about appearance than actual recognition.
These murders are ritualistic sacrifices.
Blackwood's method is based on a ritualistic mystical system that's been employed by the Temple of the Four Orders for centuries to fully
exclude. This is an adjective which means deliberately left out or made to feel unwelcome. For example, I was excluded from the team celebration despite contributing to the project.
What if we get excluded from things?
And are we excluded from the kingdom of heaven unless we accept the one true truth?
Spiral of despair. This is an expression which means a negative cycle or pattern of thoughts that worsens over time. After the exclusion, I felt like I was in a spiral of despair, unable to break free from my negative feelings.
We are in a spiral of environmental decline.
Her strong, fleshy legs drove me to ecstasies of despair.
Black hole of indifference. This is an expression which means a situation where all efforts or emotions are ignored or unnoticed. For example, my contributions were swallowed by a black hole of indifference, leaving me feeling worthless.
We might get sucked into a black hole of embarrassment that we never get out of.
Religion is a matter of indifference to this office.
Diminishing my own worth. This is an expression which means undervaluing yourself or not acknowledging your true potential. For example, by staying in that toxic work environment, I was diminishing my own worth.
Her immune system diminishing her ability to heal and breaking down her organ system.
They reminded me of my own worth.
Unrelenting pursuit of approval. This expression means a constant, tireless effort to gain validation from others. For example, I had been caught in an unrelenting pursuit of approval, trying to gain the respect of people who didn't appreciate me.
Then I will kill your daughter in front of you and make you share in the unrelenting pain you've given me.
Selling yourself short. This expression means underestimating or undervaluing yourself or your own abilities. For example, I was selling myself short by staying in a job that didn't value my potential.
He'd be mad at you the same way I am because you are selling yourself short.
And if you're telling yourself that, you're selling yourself short.
pulled the plug. This expression means to end something abruptly or to stop something from continuing. For example, I finally pulled the plug on that job and decided to seek something better.
We were just getting on top of it when this insurance bloke pulled the plug on us.
Listen, Decker, they pulled the plug on me.
Drain my vitality. This expression means to take away energy, enthusiasm, or life force. For example, the toxic work environment drained my vitality, leaving me feeling exhausted and demotivated.
I think of the music I might have written, if not for the guilt which has murdered my vitality all these years.
Emerging from the fog. This expression means gaining clarity or understanding after a period of confusion or uncertainty. For example, walking out of that office felt like emerging from the fog. I could finally see a clear path ahead.
That vision of the big winner somehow emerging from the last-minute pre-dawn chaos of a stale Vegas casino.
Reclaim your autonomy. This expression means regain control over your own life or decisions. For example, after quitting, I reclaimed my autonomy and started focusing on my personal and professional goals. Trusting your instincts. This expression means relying on your own judgment or gut feeling. For example, trusting my instincts led me to make the best decision for my future.
Like I said, you were trusting your instincts on that case, just like you're trusting them now.
I know it may not feel like you know what you're doing sometimes, but keep trusting your instincts.
Stand up for your worth. To assert your value and demand respect or recognition. For example, it's important to stand up for your worth and not settle for less than you deserve. Nourish your potential. This expression means to cultivate or develop your abilities or talents in a healthy and supportive environment. For example, I left my own job to find an environment where I could nourish my potential and grow.
We thank you for these bountiful gifts. May they nourish our body and soul.
Carte blanche, which means complete freedom to act as one wishes. For example, the new manager was given carte blanche to reorganize the team. Let's see how people use it in real situations.
If I thought for a second you wanted to help him, you'd have carte blanche.
We're going back, Ken. They told me I had a carte blanche this time.
See how people use it in real conversation? Use this phrase when describing unlimited authority or creative control. Speaking of freedom, let's move on to a phrase that highlights the flexibility of expression. Double entendre, which means a phrase with two meanings, often one of which is risque or suggestive. For example, her speech was filled with clever double entendres that keeps the audience entertained.
Because you're slimy, and you turn everything into a double entendre.
Perfect for discussing witty or playful language. From witty language, let's move on to a phrase that happens to many of us. Deja vu. And I'm pretty sure you've been using that in your daily conversation without even realizing where it comes from. Deja vu is a feeling of having experienced something before. Walking into the old house gave me a strong sense of deja vu.
They say that deja vu is usually a sign of love at first sight.
Use this phrase when describing an uncanny sense of familiarity. Now that we relived some moments, let's take a look at a social blunder that's hard to forget. Faux pas, which is a social blunder or embarrassing mistake. Wearing white to a wedding party was a major faux pas.
In 2 days, you're gonna call me and thank me for forgiving you of your dating faux pas.
So, I hear you've made an enormous faux pas, and everyone's laughing up their sleeves about your date.
This phrase is ideal for discussing social etiquettes or missteps. Speaking of mistake, how about an undefinable quality that is hard to explain? Je ne sais quoi, which is an undefinable, appealing quality. She had a certain je ne sais quoi that makes her unforgettable.
Oh, Jacqueline, you have a beautiful je ne sais quoi.
quoi.
Hey, Jake maybe don't win it, but he does have a certain je ne sais quoi with the ladies.
Use this phrase for describing charm and allure. Let's switch gears and talk about something authentic and genuine. Bona fide, which means authentic and genuine. The painting was confirmed as a bona fide masterpiece by the experts.
Oh, Tia, you're a bona fide genius.
I assure you, every item is bona fide and valid.
Use this phrase for emphasizing authenticity or legitimacy. Now let's look at the phrase that's perfect for when things are steady and unchanged. Status quo, which means the current state of affairs. The company decided to maintain the status quo despite the challenges.
Assert yourself and impose your will on the status quo.
Couldn't we just keep things status quo?
Great for describing the situations that remain unchanged. Now let's talk about an approach that is both specific and temporary. Ad hoc, for a specific purpose or situation. The team formed an ad hoc committee to handle the crisis.
This ad hoc tribunal of the National Academy is now in session.
An ad hoc team from a provincial museum cannot be left in charge.
Perfect for temporary or improvised action. Now let's explore a sudden or dramatic change. Coup d'etat. Coup d'etat means a sudden overthrow of government or leadership. The coup d'etat shocked the entire nation overnight. Often used in political or historical contexts. Now let's discuss a concept of minimal interference. Laissez-faire. Laissez-faire means a policy of letting things take their own course without interference. The company's laissez-faire approach allowed employees to work on their own terms.
Today we will be discussing the principle of laissez-faire, which roughly translated means let each man do what he wants.
It's clear that you've had a very laissez-faire attitude concerning your image over the past year.
Perfect for discussions about leadership or economic policies. Next up, let's explore the idea of a fresh start. Tabula rasa, clean slate or fresh start. Moving to a new city felt like a tabula rasa for her.
You want something to eat because your stomach must be a real tabula rasa after last night.
Use this when talking about new beginnings. Let's delve into something creative and ahead of its time. Avant-garde, which means innovative, especially in arts or cultures. Her avant-garde designs push the boundaries of traditional fashion.
Astute collector of antiquities, great friend to the avant-garde.
He's a well-regarded up-and-coming director of the avant-garde.
Great for discussing creativity or modern ideas. Now let's talk about a phrase that reveals how someone works. Modus operandi, which means a method of operating or working. The detective analyzed the criminal's modus operandi to predict the next move.
Guys, the fuck kind of modus operandi is that?
Blown up Australians by mistake from a distance was more your modus operandi.
Perfect to describe patterns or methods. Speaking of responses, let's look at how to formally reply. RSVP, which is an acronym for a French phrase, Répondez s'il vous plaît, which literally translates into respond if it pleases you. What's weird though is that people in France mostly don't use it anymore, but English speakers still do. Now French people more often say répondre attendu avant le, which translates to respond is expected before. So it basically means please respond. Don't forget to RSVP for the party by Friday.
I hold in my hand the RSVP from Professor Vinnick.
You invite me somewhere? Pow! RSVP.
It is commonly used for formal events and invitations. And finally, let's wrap up with something collective and powerful. En masse. En masse means the all together as a group. The students protested en masse against the new policy.
Why have they stopped coming at us en masse?
She'll have a booming, boisterous family who will descend on you en masse.
By everything about period, I meant these topics. And after this video, there won't be anything left that you really want to know about period. Alright, let's start with the first segment. First things first, how to say I have my period in everyday English. There are many ways to say that. I'm on my period. This is the direct, natural way to say that. It's that time of the month. It's a common, slightly indirect way to say that. I'm bleeding. Very casual, but can sound too direct. I'm on my monthly cycle. A softer, more medical sounding phrase. I'm experiencing a downtime. I'm PMSing or I have PMS, which stands for premenstrual syndrome. Some people use funnier way to say that. Ant flow is in the town or ant flow is coming. No ant flow, but this is a funny, informal, playful way to refer to your period. Or you can normally say ant flow is visiting. Shark Week or Shark Week has begun, referring to the blood, obviously. The red wave is here or the red tide is in. Playful and humorous. Or you can simply say, I'm having the hard time. It's that time of the month. Tom is here, which stands for time of the month. A euphemism for having a period. Mother Nature is visiting. I'm on my rag or I'm on the rag, which is casual but a little old-fashioned. There is also a medical professional term for that. I'm menstruating. Used in medical setting but not in casual conversations.
Is it your time of the month?
So, it's that time of the month again, huh?
It's not the right time of the month.
So, if you ever hear a friend say, oh, it's that time of the month again, now you know exactly what they mean. Here's the segment 2. Now let's talk about the common symptoms and how to talk about them. Periods hit differently for everyone. Some women like me get the full nightmare package. Cramps, bloating, mood swings, the whole deal. Some women just get a few symptoms and move on like it's no biggie. And then there are the lucky ones who feel nothing. No pain, no bloating, no suffering. Honestly, are they even human? Scientists, please explain. Now for the rest of us, let's talk about what actually we go through. Here's the first one, cramps. Period pain or abdominal pain. And now I'm gonna tell you how to talk about the period pain like a pro. I have really bad cramps today. Simple and direct. My stomach is killing me because it really feels that way. I get the worst cramps on the first day of my period. First day, more like a judgment day. My stomach feels like it's twisting in knots. Really? Who knew the internal origami was a thing? I feel like my uterus is punching me from inside. Honestly, it's probably training for a boxing match. I'm curled up in bed with a heating pad. Send help and snacks. When pains are getting much more unbearable, you can say, my cramps are killing me. I know, dramatic, but true. I can't even stand up straight. And at this point, I walk like a 90-year-old. Let me tell you how to talk about bloating. I feel so bloated. I look 5 months pregnant. Honestly, if I sit too fast, someone might throw me a baby shower. My jeans don't fit today. Thanks, hormones. I'm retaining so much water. Basically, I'm a human water balloon, just waiting to pop. Mood swings, being on an emotional roller coaster. Let's see how to talk about it. I cried over a silly commercial today. No joke. It was about a puppy and friendship, and now I'm emotionally ruined. 1 minute I'm fine, and next I'm raging over nothing. Who moved my coffee cups? I need names. I'm so irritable. I can't deal with people today. And by people, I mean everyone. And in case you want to know what's the meaning of irritable, it means bad-tempered, crotchety, or oversensitive. I'm so moody today. I don't know what I want. Am I mad? Am I sad? Who knows? Certainly not me. I'm a little bitchy today. And by bitchy, I mean easily annoyed, a little aggressive, or may not be ready to start a war over a missing hair tie. And if you value your life, don't test me today. This is the final warning. And here are, what can you say? I could eat an entire pizza today. And then another one, and maybe some fries, and a cake, and... See? Why do I always crave chocolate during my period? Is it science? Is it magic? Whatever it is, give me more. I just want carbs and sugar, and I won't apologize for that. Bread? Yes. Pasta? Yes. Anything that requires butter? Absolutely. If you see me eating peanut butter straight from the jar, okay, mind your own business. This is survival, not a diet.
I've been craving chocolate constantly, but that's okay, right?
You made it through that time of the month with food and mood swing. Let's talk about the next segment. You want to know how to talk about heavy versus light flow and irregular periods? This segment is for you. Not all periods are created equal. Some are light and polite, and some show up like a horror movie. And some, they enjoy keeping you on your toes, never knowing when or if they'll arrive. Let's talk about heavy flow. A lot of bleeding. My period is so heavy, I feel like I'm hemorrhaging. Okay, dramatic, but seriously, how is there this much blood? I have to change my pad every hour, and at this point, I should just live in the bathroom. I looked through my clothes today. Oh, the betrayal, the absolute betrayal. I feel like a murder scene down there. CSI, period edition. And in case you don't know what's a CSI, it's a humorous reference to a popular TV series, Crime Scene Investigation. Here, how you can talk about light flow. My period is super light this time. For once, a little mercy. I barely need a pad. So, do I even call it a period? It's more like a spotting than an actual period. Like it showed up to say hi and leave. Now let's talk about irregular periods. Never on a schedule. My period never comes on time. Punctuality? She doesn't know where. My cycle is all over the place. 1 month it's early and the next month it's on a vacation. Sometimes it skips a month and sometimes it lasts forever. What can't it just chill? I never know when my period's coming. It likes surprises, I guess. I don't. There are also some fancy medical terms for them that no one uses in real life. Menorrhagia, which is ridiculously heavy periods. Oligomenorrhea, irregular periods. And finally, spotting, when your period can't decide if it's coming or not. Basically, periods are unpredictable, messy, and sometimes straight up rude.
You got that heavy flow, girl.
Can't help it if I've got a heavy flow and a wide set vagina.
Menorrhagia, an infection, ovarian cysts.
Here's a segment for PMS, the ultimate monthly drama. PMS, the lovely little pre-show before the main event. For some, it's just mild moodiness, and for others, it's a full-on emotional roller coaster, complete with bloating, craving, and existential crisis. Here's the first one, how to talk about it. I always feel moody before my period. 1 second I'm fine, and the next I'm plotting the world domination. I get bloated every time, and at this point, I might as well name my food baby. I crave chocolate like crazy before my period. It's not a craving, it's a medical emergency. There's a fancy medical term for that that sounds way too serious. PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. PMS, but cranked up to a nightmare mode.
What do you call a woman who has PMS and ESP at the same time?
This pile of PMS is Alyssa Jones.
Just a little case of PMS, that's all.
Basically, PMS is like a sneak attack. Your body decides to mess with you even if before your period starts. Rude. Now we're going to talk about how often periods happen. A typical cycle is 28 days, but let's be real. Periods follow their own chaotic schedule. I get my period every 28 days, like clockwork. More reliable than my Wi-Fi. My cycle is super irregular. It shows up whenever it feels like it. Like my flaky friends. I only get my period every 2 or 3 months. Lucky? Maybe. Stressful? Absolutely. And of course, if you dare mention a late period, someone always asks, could you be pregnant? Relax, maybe my uterus just hit the snooze button. Basically, periods do what they want, when they want. No rules, no logic, just vibes. Now, let's talk about doctor's visit, medical terms, and the awkward appointment. If your period is acting up, you might need to see a gynecologist, aka a doctor who knows too much about your uterus. You want to explain your symptoms to the doctor? Here we go. My periods are extremely painful. Feels like my uterus is personally offended. I have really irregular cycles. It's like my period is playing hide and seek. I bleed way too much each month. At this point, I should be getting a blood donor card. And of course, the classic. When was your last period? Hold on. Let me check my period tracking app, my calendar, and consult the stars. And what the doctor might ask. Do you experience any clotting? And in case you wonder what clotting is, it's weird jelly-like stuff in your blood. Here's another question that doctors might ask. Are your periods painful or manageable? Painful. Very painful. Next question. And if they suspect a problem, they might recommend pap smear, the oh so fun test where they scrape your cervix. Yay. Ultrasound, because your uterus loves photo shoots. And blood test to check if your hormones are partying too hard. Birth control pills to allegedly make your cycles behave. And also you should know the doctors you might see, a gynecologist or a gyno, the one who gets too personal with your reproductive system. Endocrinologist, who is the hormone detective.
I'm here to see my gynecologist.
I'm going to be meeting with an endocrinologist soon, though.
Moral of the story, if your period is causing chaos, a doctor might be able to help, or at least give you a fancy medical term for your suffering. Period products, a survival kit for monthly madness. If we have to deal with it every month, we might as well do it in a style. Let's see what the options are and what kind of questions we can ask. Pads, sanitary pads or sanitary napkins. Here is what you can say. I need to buy some pads. And of course, I do that discreetly by grabbing some of them like a ninja and hiding them under 10 other things in my cart. Do you have a spare pad? And this is a code red situation. Help a sister out. I always carry an emergency pad in my bag because you never know when the Mother Nature will go surprise. And now let's talk about the types of pads. pads. I use overnight pads because my flow is heavy. Basically, this is a mattress for my underwear. Tampons, for when you want to feel sporty even if you're not moving. I use tampons because they're more convenient. And between our ears, I'd like to pretend I'm an athlete. Can you grab me a box of tampons? Or I prefer tampons over pads. And if you want to know about the absorbency level, you can find light, regular, super, and super plus because, periods don't believe in consistency. I always start with a super, but then switch to a regular. It's all about strategy, people. And here is another option, menstrual cups. The eco-friendly, money-saving, panic-including options. I just switched to a menstrual cup just to be eco-friendly and also to make my life more stressful while trying to get it out. Menstrual cups last for years, so they save money. One-time buy and then more budget for chocolate. Okay, they take time to get used to, but they work great, trust me. However, once you stop fearing, it is stuck forever, if you know what I mean. Here's a good one, period underwears. Because why not blade it straight into your clothes? Good options, aren't they? Here's what you can say about that. I wear period underwear at night to prevent leaks. This is basically my backup security system. They're lifesavers on heavy days when I refuse to trust tampons or pads alone. Here's another option, panty liners, the lightweights of the period world. I use panty liners on my lightest days, like the safety net for my final plot twist. They're great for spotting, for days that your period just can't make up its mind.
Do you have any sanitary pads?
Do you have any tampons?
Usable menstrual cups.
I left one of my panty liners under your pillow.
A whole bunch of shit-stained panty liners down your commodes?
Have you ever noticed how your teenagers talks? Or how you describe that voice of your teenagers? Our first expression exactly describes it. Voice cracking or voice breaking. It is exactly when the voice suddenly changes pitch, as it depends, especially in boys.
But I woke up every day. Oh shit.
His voice cracking during the presentation made everyone giggle. Have you ever noticed that your teenagers are changing day by day? And these changes are almost visible in every teenager. It is called growth spurt. It is a rapid increase in height and size during the adolescence. She had a growth spurt and outgrew her shoes in just a month.
Oh, little Ferdinand had a growth spurt. But he's still the same scared little coward he always was.
You got kids like me who haven't hit their growth spurt yet, mixed in with gorillas who have to shave twice a day.
To outgrow means to grow out of something, which means to grow too big for something. Are your teenagers suffering from the same thing that I did? And by that, I mean acne, breakouts. Frustrating, right? And for sure, you know what it means. Pimples and blemishes caused by hormonal changes. Acne breakouts are a common challenge for teens. Puberty isn't just about physical changes. Emotions play a big role too. Have you ever been so frustrated with your children and there's no way out of it? Here's how you can describe it. Mood swings, which means rapid changes in mood caused by hormonal shifts. Her mood swings made her unpredictable, but it's just par for the course.
Maybe it's like a mood swing, my hormones, I don't know.
She'd have violent mood swings ranging from mania, where she'd be elated,
And here's the bonus. Do you want to know what's the meaning of par for the course? Watch that video of mine. Par for the course means typical, standard, what you normally expect to happen. Speaking of emotion, let's look at another sign of growing up. Hormonal surges, which is an increased hormone levels causing changes in body and behavior. Hormonal surges can make teens feel more energetic or more tired. You never know.
Baines is sniffing around, and your hormone surges are getting out of control.
Well, my libido is increasing at a rapid rate, and the surge of hormones causes dramatic physical and emotional changes.
The next phrase is exactly what I've been struggling with the whole time in my boy's teenagehood. Body odor, which is a strong smell caused by sweat and bacteria common during puberty.
Brother, what's that?
Talk about cleanliness. Body odor is a natural part of puberty, but deodorant can help.
You're a fat loser and you have body odor.
Let's talk about something more serious compared to body odor. Time to talk about confidence, awkwardness, and what it means. It means feeling clumsy or embarrassed due to rapid growth or change. His awkwardness around new people was normal for his age.
Really turned on by his sort of skinny
awkwardness
and his hot little mohawk.
You know what a major physical milestone for teenagers is? It is developing secondary sexual characteristics. Physical traits like facial hair, curves, or a deeper voice. Secondary sexual characteristics are key signs of maturity. Let's talk about a less obvious change teenagers face. Social pressure, which is the feeling of needing to fit in or be accepted by peers. Last but not least, let's talk about how these changes affect self-esteem. Building confidence, which is learning to feel secure despite changes and challenges. Building confidence takes time, especially during puberty.
He's making friends and building confidence.
Break down. My washing machine broke down again. It is used to talk about cars, machines, and systems.
If the machine breaks down, we break down.
Conk out. The blender conked out while I was using it. It means it stopped working suddenly.
It was like I was a machine that was functioning, but I could just conk out at any second.
Here is a good one. Malfunction. My oven is malfunctioning. It won't heat properly. It is a formal term for things that are not working right.
NASA is confirming there is some sort of malfunction with the capsule's heat shield, and it may not stay in place.
Give out. My vacuum cleaner finally gave out. It means it stopped working after long use.
Looks like her heart gave out in all the excitement.
Short circuit. The TV short-circuited after the storm, which means electrical failure.
Short circuit the control system.
I could try to short circuit the breakers.
Here's a good one. Act up. The coffee machine is acting up again. It means it's not working properly, being unpredictable.
She's liable to act up and make a lot of rude noises.
The next word is trip. To trip a fuse or breaker. I think we tripped the breaker. The power is out again, which means electrical overload, shutting off power.
I don't want to overloaded circuit to trip the breaker.
Seize up is our next word. My old fan seized up and it won't spin anymore, which means stop moving due to mechanical issue.
Instep is beginning to seize up.
Here's the next one. Plug up. The sink is clogged up again, which means blocked, usually for pipes and drain.
My aspirin, so my heart doesn't clog up.
Warp. The wooden door warped after years of exposure to moisture, which means changing shape due to water, heat, or pressure. But what if something isn't just completely broken? It's just off? That's where exactly these words come in. Let's talk about partial malfunctions. Flickering. The light bulb keeps flickering. It's so annoying, which means unsteady light.
Flickering shadows and all the wine you're drinking.
Jammed or stuck. The drawer is jammed, it won't open, which means blocked or trapped.
This biscuit wants to jam.
The skyway is jammed.
My t-shirt's stuck to my sweater, isn't it?
Yeah. Here's a good one. Leaking. The air conditioner is leaking water everywhere, which means liquid escaping.
The pipe is leaking in the guest bathroom.
It's been leaking for 2 weeks.
Wobbly. Here's the next one. This chair is so wobbly. I think it's about to fall apart, which means unstable or shaking.
Actually, I thought I'd fix that wobbly chair before I left.
Loose. The handle is loose. I'm afraid it'll come off in my hand, which means not properly attached. Grinding. The blender makes grinding noise before it starts, which means friction between moving parts.
There was a tremendous bump, terrible grinding noise, and I felt the port wheel collapse.
Here's the next one. Overheating. My laptop keeps overheating and shutting down, which means becoming too hot.
Carry extra water for overheating radiators.
Doesn't break, jam, or overheat.
Draining it slowly. The bathtub is draining so slowly. I think it's clogged, which means water taking too long to go down.
Noticed this was draining slowly when I tested the water.
Here's the next, which is my favorite. Unresponsive. My phone is completely unresponsive. The screen won't react at all, which means not reacting to any touch or buttons. And here's the last one in this part. Sluggish. The Wi-Fi is so sluggish today. Pages won't load.
Sluggish, like a wet sponge.
Things that just don't stop working. They complain. Here, how we describe the sounds in English. Here's only one. Creak. The wooden floor creaks every time I step on it, which means high-pitched sound, usually from wood.
All that lives in this house are shadows and creaks and groans.
Here's another one. Rattle. The washing machine rattles when it's overloaded, which means loose objects shaking inside.
I'm in the car. Car starts making this weird rattling sound.
When you kill them, lambs make like a human scream and then a rattling sound.
Buzz or hum. The fridge is making a loud buzzing noise, a low continuous sound.
And the only reason for making a buzzing noise that I know of is because you're a bee.
Baby, don't pay no attention to that buzzing noise.
And then this constant buzzing noise, like you're building chairs over here, and yet...
Hear that humming sound? It's more like there's a humming sound.
And there was this strange humming sound, like something from another world.
Drip. The faucet is dripping non-stop, which means single water drops falling.
Anyway, one night I was lying in bed and all of a sudden I heard this dripping sound.
What's that dripping sound?
And now this one, where the fan whirs softly in the background, which means soft spinning sound. Clank. I heard a clank from the heater. It doesn't sound good, which means a metallic banging sound.
It was meant to be a surprise. All that clanking metal and junk.
You clinking, clanking, clattering collection of colliginous junk!
As I walked home with the dirty dishes clanking inside my picnic basket, all I could think of was Julie.
Here's a good one. Sputter, which means stop and start repeatedly.
Just think of all those red and angry faces sputtering over the coffee cups. Who's sputtering like a spoon duck?
Here is the number 8 in our list. Squeak. The old door squeaks every time I open it, which means a high-pitched sound from friction.
Hey, it's him, squeaks.
And their shrieks, squeaks, and squeals racing round on their wheels.
Squeaks when you press the albino.
And what does the hissing sound mean? The radiator is hissing. Is that normal? Which means that the air or steam escaping.
There was a hissing sound like air coming out of the brakes.
An exhale with a hissing sound.
Some say it traveled with a hissing sound. Some that it landed with a green flash.
That awful hissing sound it makes.
Here's the popping sound. The light bulb popped and went out, which means a sudden explosive sound. Here's a good one. Thump. The washing machine made a loud thump before it stopped, which means heavy, dull noise. Clicking. Let's see what clicking sound is. The stove is clicking, but it won't light, which means a repeated small sound.
What's this thing you do, the whistle with the clicking sound?
You just made a clicking sound with your mouth.
Here is number 13. Gurgle. The sink is gurgling. It must be clogged, which means water flowing or bubbling irregularly.
Sometimes these things have a gurgling sound.
Not if you count the gurgling sound.
Here's the next. Scraping. The chair is scraping against the floor, which is dragging sound.
I hear somebody outside making a kind of a scraping sound.
Here's the last one in this part. Knocking. The fridge makes a knocking sound every few hours, which means repetitive tapping noise. Here's the thing. Which of these sounds have you heard in your home? Tell me in the comments. Let's see how people react when things break down. It's completely dead for electronics that won't turn on.
It's completely dead.
It's completely dead.
And it's completely dead.
It's on its last leg, almost broken, barely working.
Yeah, well, that tractor back there looks like it's on its last legs.
It doesn't stop working out of nowhere. I think it's fried, destroyed by overheating or power issues.
Oh my God, it's fried. What, it's fried?
I need to get it fixed when it's time to repair something.
I need to get it fixed. The coffin warehouse.
It's on the blink again, which means it's unreliable and keeps breaking.
This time it's on the blink. It's on the blink.
It's acting up or it's playing up. Playing up is mostly used by British people, which means it's not working right.
The sink, it's acting up again.
Phil, the tractor, it's acting up.
The thing is toast, which means completely broken. Here's the next. It keeps cutting out, which means it stops working intermittently.
Keeps cutting out or something.
And finally, if it is broken beyond repair, you can say it's shot.
It's shot, Kelly.
Somehow it's shot right to the top.
Cold turkey. To quit something suddenly and completely. This phrase is used all the time, especially when you're talking about someone quitting smoking, drinking, or even unhealthy habits like binge watching shows. For example, he quit drinking cold turkey and the withdrawal was intense. I tried quitting social media cold turkey, but I caved in after 2 days.
Cold turkey doesn't even apply to substance D.
Quitting cold turkey is a good way to shock your system.
Here there is a word which you might want to know the meaning. Withdrawal, which is the period that someone has given up the drug that they had been dependent on. There's also a phrasal verb you might want to know the meaning. Cave in, which means to stop opposing something or give out. For example, the manager is expected to cave in to pressure from shareholders. Here's a good one. Hooked on, which means to be addicted to something. It is not always about addiction. You can also use it to talk about something you really love, like a new TV series. I'm totally hooked on that detective show. For example, she's hooked on caffeine. She drinks 5 cups of coffee a day. He got hooked on video games and started skipping school.
She's hooked on the white powder and loves a wrong'un.
You see, that is what happens when people get hooked on the new age life.
Have you ever wanted to stop something and you don't know what to say? Here's a good one. Kick the bad habits. To stop successfully an addiction or habit.
Do you want to kick the habit or don't you? I'm gonna kick the habit.
However, it is not always used just for addiction. You can talk about any kind of habit. For example, he's trying to kick the habit of procrastination. And in case you want to know what's the meaning of procrastination, is the habit of delaying something or putting things off. Procrastination is the noun and the verb is procrastinate, which means to postpone or to put things off. To be honest, I'm a classic procrastinator myself. Here's the next one. Fall off the wagon, which means to relapse into an addiction or bad habit after quitting that. For example, she was sober for 6 months, but last week she fell off the wagon. I was on a strict diet, but I fell off the wagon at the family barbecue.
How do you know you're not going to fall off the wagon?
But I can't have it, because you'll fall off the wagon. Ah!
I don't want to fall off the wagon.
You never know when she's gonna fall off the wagon and humiliate everybody.
Let's move on to the next one. Jonesing for something, which means having a strong craving or withdrawal. I'm jonesing for something sweet right now. After quitting smoking, he was jonesing for a cigarette all day.
He has been jonesing for that trip forever, even without being stuck here.
Hit rock bottom, which means to reach the lowest point due to bad choices or addiction. For example, he hit rock bottom when he lost his job and family due to drinking. After maxing out all her credit cards, she realized she had hit rock bottom financially.
Someone who idolizes me has recently hit rock bottom and will now do just about anything I ask.
I'd finally hit rock bottom.
Have you ever had a desire for something stronger? You're looking for a gateway drug, which means something that leads to a stronger addiction. For example, manipulative vaping is a gateway drug to smoking cigarettes. Or some energy drinks can be a gateway drug to a stronger stimulants.
You know they say weed is a gateway drug.
This can be a gateway drug.
Jesus, this is a gateway drug, Grandpa.
Have you ever tried to stay sober without asking for help? You're white-knuckling it, which means to struggle to stay sober without support. For example, he's struggling to quit alcohol, but he's just white-knuckling it. He needs help. I tried quitting sugar alone, but white-knuckling it didn't work. I needed a plan.
And, I basically have been like white-knuckling it this whole time.
You think you're the only one white-knuckling it here, Dean?
Here's the next one. Quit while you're ahead, which means to stop before things get worse. This phrase is also used to talk about career moves, business decisions, or even arguments. For example, he left the company at the right time. Quit while he was ahead. I was winning at poker, but I quit while I was ahead before losing it all.
Don't quit while you're ahead.
Shouldn't you just quit while you're ahead?
Let's quit while I'm ahead, huh?
He was a one-book writer. A one-time winner who had quit while he was ahead.
Here's the last but not least. Wean off, which means to gradually reduce something instead of going cold turkey and quitting suddenly.
We said we were going to wean off of them, remember?
They're gonna go to the mountains, they're gonna go to the desert, they're gonna go to Guatemala and wean off. You know how many junkies have told me they're gonna wean off?
You can also use this phrase in other cases. Parents wean babies off breastfeeding, and people wean off anything they're trying to reduce, from junk food to screen time. The doctor advised him to wean off caffeine instead of quitting cold turkey. She's trying to wean off social media by setting screen time limits. To live out of a suitcase. To live out of a suitcase means to travel so often that you never fully unpack. Here's a great phrasal verb you don't want to miss. To live out of, which means to use something as the main place for living or storing things. For example, as a flight attendant, I'm always living out of my suitcase. During my business trip, I lived out of my suitcase for 3 weeks straight.
I'd like to meet someone, but it's tough when you live out of a suitcase.
Yes, but I basically live out of a suitcase.
Here's our next one in our list. Off the beaten path or off the beaten track, which means a place that is not touristy or well-known, which is mostly untouched. We found a beautiful little village off the beaten path, away from the crowds. If you want authentic food, go off the beaten path and eat where the locals go.
Yeah, it's designed to help travelers find things off the beaten path.
You know Africa off the beaten path.
Have you ever taken a red-eye flight? Because you know it is sometimes a lot less expensive. This is a late night flight that arrives in the morning. I took a red-eye flight to New York and barely got any sleep. Red-eye flights are cheaper, but they leave you exhausted and jet-lagged.
After the play, booked a Christmas Eve red-eye flight months ago.
We were on that red-eye flight, and at some point you realized that everybody else had fallen asleep.
You want to get a sunbath? Where'd you go? To catch some rays. This is another useful expression that you might use while you're traveling. Catch some rays, which means to sunbathe and relax in the sun. By the way, rays refers to sun rays. For example, let's hit the beach and catch some rays before sunset.
Do some gambling, maybe catch some rays, have a few laughs.
Yeah, you want us to lay out, relax, and catch some rays.
What do you pack when you want to go on a trip? You pack everything except the kitchen sink, or you travel light? I always travel light, just a backpack and a carry-on. You should travel light if you're gonna be moving around a lot.
Go anywhere, travel light, get in, get out, wherever there's trouble, a man alone.
Another rule to surviving Zombieland, travel light.
You want to start your trip? You need to hit the road. Actually, there is an expression for everything in English, which means to start your journey. The word hit here means to start or to begin. We packed our bags and hit the road early in the morning. After breakfast, let's hit the road and explore the countryside.
Are you sure this thing isn't gonna fall apart on me as soon as I hit the road?
So when was the last time you hit the road just for fun?
Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more.
Have you ever had a layover? It's so frustrating, isn't it? Which means a stop at an airport between two connecting flights. I have a 5-hour layover in Dubai before my flight to Tokyo. Long layovers are annoying, but sometimes you can explore the city.
I always wanted to have a layover in Cincinnati.
We may have a layover in Civics, so buckle up, because it's gonna be a crazy ride.
Do you have a travel bug? Which means you have a strong desire to travel? Ever since my trip to Europe, I've caught the travel bug. She has the travel bug. She's been to 15 countries this year.
I had that old travel bug when I was your age.
When I first met you at Stanford, you had just been bitten by the travel bug, right?
Do you plan everything in advance, or you are spontaneous, flying by the seat of your pants, which means traveling without a plan, making decisions as you go. This phrase can also be used outside of travel, which means to act without a plan.
When you're flying by the seat of your pants, nothing sounds more official than a plan B.
Have you ever made a mistake just because you didn't understand the language? You have been lost in translation, and it happens when something is misunderstood due to language differences. I tried ordering food in Italy, but something got lost in translation, and I ended up with a plate of snails. The joke didn't make sense to them. It got lost in translation.
Yeah, so did I. I guess it got a little lost in translation.
At the end of Lost in Translation, Bill Murray pulls ScarJo in and whispers, "I have to be leaving, but I won't let that come between us."
While traveling, have you ever had a stop off to take care of something? You're making a pit stop, which means to take a short break while traveling for food, fuel, or rest. Let's make a pit stop at that diner before we hit the highway again. We made a quick pit stop to grab some snacks and stretch our legs.
We need to make a pit stop in the little girl's room.
You don't have to make a pit stop, Mr. Shulman?
Okay, from now on, you're not gonna have any problem while traveling. I promised you a bonus expression. And here we go, jet lagged, which means feeling extremely tired and disoriented after traveling across multiple time zones. I just landed from 12-hour flight and I'm completely jet lagged. I can't keep my eyes open. She looked so jet lagged after her trip to Japan and she fell asleep at breakfast.
Is he jet lagged from somewhere or he just lunches late?
By the way, jet lagged is an adjective and you can also use jet lag as a noun to make sentences. You can say, after a long trip, I have a terrible jet lag. Or you can say, I feel so jet lagged. First of all, let's talk about manipulative relationship tactics. Gaslighting. When someone makes you question your reality. For example, you're imagining things. I never said that. Actually, they did say that, but they just want you to doubt yourself.
So he's sexually gaslighting you?
Like it's the ultimate gaslighting.
Breadcrumbing, which means keeping you interested with just enough attention, but never truly committing. For example, I miss you, but I'm really busy right now. Which means they just want to keep you hooked, but they have no real intentions. Here's the next one. Love bombing, which means over-the-top affection at first, only to later control you. For example, you're my soulmate. No one will ever love you like I do, which totally means they're setting up a cycle of manipulation.
So love bombing is basically overwhelming new recruits with attention, praise, and love.
And then there's love bombing.
Here's a good one. Hoovering, when a toxic ex tries to suck you back in after a breakup. I've changed. I miss you. Let's try again. See how it works? You know, they're playing with your emotions. Negging, which means insulting someone in a way that lowers their confidence. For example, you're cute for someone who doesn't dress up much. You know, that's not a compliment. That's an insult disguised as one.
Young women do not fall for negging. He's like negging them. It's so rude.
Now let's talk about control. Have you ever heard of stonewalling? Which means refusing to talk or acknowledge problems. For example, I don't want to talk about this. And they're shutting down the most important conversations.
If they're still sticking to their stonewalling strategy, I'll get them.
The first irrefutable case caused by transfusions, and these people are stonewalling us.
The silent treatment, which means deliberately ignoring someone just to punish them. Come on, this is a form of control, not problem solving.
Slamming doors and giving the silent treatment couldn't change that, but it was easier than admitting I was really scared.
Okay, you're giving me the silent treatment.
This was not going to go away, even with her silent treatment.
Ghosting, disappearing without any explanation. They just vanish into thin air with no texting, no responding. Really? Isn't that funny? They just don't respect your time and emotion.
Don't even think about ghosting me.
I'm not opposed to ghosting.
Benching, which means keeping you as an option while dating others. For example, I really like you, but I'm just not ready for something serious. Come on, they're keeping their options open.
But I'm benching you for smoking dope.
Future faking, making false promises about the future just to keep you hooked. For example, we'll get married one day. Just be patient. No way! They have no real plans. They're just stringing you along. Now let's talk about emotional manipulation and power plays. Triangulation, using the third person just to make you feel jealous or insecure. For example, my ex used to do this so much better than you. Seriously, they're just creating drama and insecurity on purpose. Projection, which means accusing you of what they're doing themselves. For example, you're so dishonest. Really? When they're the one lying, they're just shifting the blame.
You know, I read a doctor's report once about something called subconscious projection.
Trauma bonding, staying attached to someone who hurts you. For example, I know they hurt me the most, but I love them too much to leave. You're being stuck in a cycle of pain and false hope.
I'm not falling for your new age, overly emotional, trauma bonding yoga retreat bullshit.
Have you heard the term trauma bonding?
Has anyone ever put you on a guilt trip? Guilt tripping, which means using guilt to control you. For example, if you really loved me, you would do this for me. Are you for serious? Love isn't measured by how much someone manipulates you.
Hell yes, I'm guilt tripping you.
Only because Mom is guilt tripping me.
Emotional dumping, using you as an emotional sponge without reciprocation. I just need to vent again. But they never ask about you. To be honest, they see you as an emotional support, not a partner.
What am I, a woman, or am I an emotional dumping ground?
Let's talk about the most dangerous red flags. Codependency. When a relationship becomes an emotional addiction. For example, I can't live without you. No way. That's not love. That's unhealthy dependency.
If you don't have a problem with my problem, maybe the problem's simply codependency.
Okay, but we should really work on this codependency thing this weekend.
What? Here's the next one. DARVO, which stands for Deny, Attack, Reverse Victim and Offender. For example, you're crazy for accusing me. But in reality, they're flipping the script to make you look like the bad one. Moving the goalposts. You did that, but it's still not enough. To tell you the truth, they're setting you up for failure.
Yeah, well, we might have beat the odds, but you keep moving the goalposts.
It's you that keeps moving the goalposts.
And here's the next. Intermittent reinforcement, which means alternating between affection and neglect just to keep you addicted. I love you one day and then disappearing the next? Come on. This keeps you emotionally hooked. Last but not least, emotional withholding, which means refusing affection to control you. For example, you don't deserve my love right now. Really? Love shouldn't be a reward. It should be mutual.
Remember, girls, you decide what makes you happy, not your emotionally withholding mothers.
Here's the first one. To bruise something in somebody's mind, which means to slowly develop an idea or a plan, often for something deceitful. For example, he had been brewing a revenge plan in his mind for months. A criminal scheme doesn't happen overnight. It brews in their mind over time.
2,000 miles to the north in the state of Barani, trouble was brewing.
Oh, Darcy, I knew when you came in with good shoes something was brewing.
Here's number 2. Harbor something, which means to secretly hold onto thoughts, plans, or emotions, especially the ones that are harmful or illegal. He harbored a deep hatred for his business rival. She was arrested for harboring a fugitive in her house.
Even if they do come back, you're not supposed to harbor them.
You're asking me to harbor and aid a convicted felon.
Harbor can be followed by thought, emotions, plans, or even people. Number 3, lay low, which means to avoid attention, especially after committing a crime. After the robbery, they laid low in a small town for weeks. He knew the police were looking for him, so he had to lay low.
Lay low for a while because you're probably wanted for murder.
Babe, I was kind of hoping to just lay low.
Number 4, to set someone up, to frame someone for a crime that they didn't commit. He swore he was innocent, claiming someone had set him up. The detective realized that evidence was planted. Someone was setting her up.
Van Garrett set him up with an acre and a broken-down cottage.
But he's got to set him up more.
Number 5, to cook up something, which means to invent or scheme something, often deceitful. The scammer cooked up a fake investment opportunity to steal money. They cooked up an excuse to get out of the contract.
We cook up an excuse as to why we need to leave early.
Cerberus was trying to cook up an antidote too.
Number 6, to cover someone's track, which means to hide evidence of wrongdoing or prevent being caught. After hacking into the system, he covered his tracks by deleting all logs. The thief covered his tracks so well that the police had no leads.
He killed him to cover his tracks.
Our only chance is to nab him as he tries to kill again, cover his tracks.
Number 7, to play someone like a fiddle, which means to manipulate someone completely. She played him like a fiddle, making him believe she was innocent. Con artists know how to play their victims like a fiddle.
Well, I knew she would play him like a banjo. I don't know, is our code down. So I have the key.
When I get them in front of, especially in front of people that look like me, I'm gonna play them like a symphony.
Here is number 8. To keep something under wraps, which means to keep something secret, often for a hidden agenda. The company kept this scandal under wraps for years. They kept their illegal activities under wraps to avoid suspicion.
I know you told me to keep it under wraps, but
This is an alien, and you guys are from some government agency trying to keep it under wraps.
To rope someone into something, which means to trick or pressure someone into doing something often illegal or undesirable. He roped his friend into a money laundering scheme. I got roped into helping them move, even though I had other plans.
Tried to rope me into some crackpot scheme.
You're trying to rope me into having sex.
Number 10. Smoke and mirrors, which is a deceptive trick used to hide the truth. Their entire business was just smoke and mirrors. It looked real, but it was a scam. The politician's speech was nothing but smoke and mirrors to distract from the real issues.
And no, not in a kind of smoke and mirrors way, no.
Wasn't exactly smoke and mirrors, but we didn't have anything.
Number 11. To keep someone in the dark, which means to deliberately withhold information from someone. They kept the employees in the dark about the company's financial problems. She was kept in the dark about the illegal dealings until it was too late.
Well, she can't keep me in the dark forever.
All right, they keep me in the dark for shit like this.
Number 12. Hatch a plan, which means to carefully create a secret plan, often illegal or harmful. The criminals hatched a plan to hack into the banking system. They hatched an elaborate scheme to defraud investors.
Annabelle and the assistant hatch a plan together?
Right. Are you ready to hatch a plan to raid the hospital's coffers?
Conjure up something, which means to create a thought or a plan, often out of nowhere. He suddenly conjured up a brilliant scam to manipulate the stock market. She conjured up a fake identity to trick investors.
I've seen things with my own eyes that most people have to go to sleep to conjure up.
Perhaps she'll be able to conjure up another miraculous escape.
Conjure up can also refer to bringing back memories. For example, that song conjures up childhood memories. Number 14. To map out something, which means to carefully plan every detail of something, often for deception. They mapped out an escape route before the robbery. He mapped out every move in his financial fraud operation.
Hey, Charlie, get your map out, will you, babe?
Spread the map out on the hood.
Number 15. To plot something, which means to secretly plan something harmful or illegal. The group plotted to take down a high-profile politician. He plotted against his business partner to take full control of the company.
And if you plot it out, it creates a spiral found in nature.
You know, when I was a teenager, or even later, into my 20s, I used to plot it all out.
Number 16. To scheme something, which means to create a dishonest or illegal plan to deceive others. They schemed to steal millions from unsuspecting investors. She was caught scheming to manipulate the voting system.
I think it'll all make sense in the grand scheme of things.
I'm gonna decorate the whole apartment around that color scheme.
In British English, scheming can also mean being cunning or manipulative in general sense. To lay the groundwork for something, which means to set up the condition for something to happen, often in a secretive way. For example, he laid the groundwork for the biggest cyber heist in history. The scammer laid the groundwork for months before executing his plan.
Psychiatrist doesn't lay the groundwork.
In a way, Jinder Mahal did sort of lay the groundwork for what McIntyre experienced.
To toy with a plan or an idea, which means to consider a really dangerous or a criminal plan, but not fully committed to it. He toyed with the idea of blackmail, but hesitated at the last moment. They toyed with different fraud tactics before settling on identity theft.
Don't toy with Florence Schwartz.
Number 19. To mastermind something, which means to be the main planner behind a major criminal act. He masterminded the largest money laundering operation in history. The FBI arrested the man who masterminded the cyber attack.
Right, you're a criminal mastermind.
That's why he's the mastermind.
Designer or mastermind.
Last but not least, to set in motion something, which means to start a chain of events often leading to crime. For example, his decision to manipulate the stock market set in motion an international investigation. Once the fake documents were leaked, it set in motion a major corporate scandal.
Recently, I planned and set in motion events to execute the perfect bank robbery.
But I fear this quest has set in motion forces we do not yet understand.
And here's the bonus expression I promised. Pull the string, which means to secretly control or manipulate an event, often for criminal purposes. He wasn't the one who committed the fraud, but he was the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. She pulled the strings to ensure her accomplices escaped without a trace.
That you're using me just to pull the strings.
This man is my puppet, and I've barely begun to pull the strings.
Let's start with one of the most dramatic words in a courtroom: objection. Lawyers use this when they disagree with something happening in the court. Maybe the other lawyer is asking an unfair question, or the evidence is unreliable. For example, objection, Your Honor. That question is misleading.
Objection, Your Honor.
Objection, Your Honor.
Objection, Your Honor.
Now, the judge has two options. If they agree with the lawyer says, they say sustained, which means the lawyer was right, and the question or statement won't count.
Objection sustained.
And if they disagree, they say overruled, which means the trial continues as normal.
Objection overruled.
Imagine you're watching a courtroom drama. When you hear objection, now you'll know exactly what's happening. Let's talk about this word, hearsay. This is when someone tries to use a statement that they didn't hear firsthand as evidence. Courts don't allow hearsay because it's unreliable after all. How do we know it's true? For example, a witness says, "My friend told me that the suspect was at the crime scene." That's hearsay because the witness didn't see it themselves. Unless there is a solid proof, the hearsay isn't usually allowed in a court.
It's probably all hearsay anyway, and I don't want to say anything that could be taken the wrong way.
It's convicting people by rumor and hearsay and innuendo.
Number 3, cross-examination. Alright, now let's picture this. One lawyer asks a witness some questions. Everything seems fine, but then the opposing lawyer steps up and starts questioning them aggressively, trying to find holes in their story. That's called cross-examination. For example, during cross-examination, the defense attorney exposed the witness's inconsistencies. Basically, it's a way to test whether the witness is telling the truth.
I don't think I should be subject to cross-examination by you, Mr. Garrison.
Now get on with your cross-examination.
The point I'm confident you'll illustrate to the court members under cross-examination.
Speaking of the truth, here's a serious one: perjury. This is when someone lies under oath in court. And guess what? It's a crime. For example, if a witness provides false testimony, they can be charged with perjury. Lying in court isn't just wrong. They can change the outcome of a case. So, perjury is taken very seriously.
Be held under arrest for perjury.
He was only convicted of perjury.
I'll do anything I can because Frank Gallo's about to commit perjury and Robert Zane knows it.
Now let's talk about a phrase that's key in criminal trials. Beyond the reasonable doubt. It means for someone to be found guilty, there must be no reasonable doubt in anyone's mind. Even if one juror thinks, I'm not sure if they really did it, then the verdict should be not guilty. By the way, juror is a member of jury. For example, the prosecution must prove the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. In other words, 100% certainty is required before someone is convicted.
The prosecution seems unable to present any proof of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
Is Father Richard Moore guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of negligent homicide?
Number 6. Plea bargain. Now imagine someone is accused of a crime and they know that the trial might not go in their favor. Instead of risking a harsh sentence, they make a deal with the court. And this is called plea bargain. Basically, they plead guilty to a lesser charge in exchange for a lighter punishment. It saves time, but it also means they admit guilt.
At first, they charged him with attempted murder, but then they plea bargain that down to assault with a deadly weapon.
The city of Minneapolis does not wish to pursue a plea bargain in this case, Your Honor.
Open up, maybe we'll let you plea bargain.
Now let's move on to a powerful legal document, a subpoena. If someone receives a subpoena, it means they must come to court and testify or provide evidence. They don't really have a choice. For example, the journalist received a subpoena to testify about the leaked documents. Ignoring a subpoena can lead to serious consequences, including legal penalties. And by the way, penalty means punishment.
No, it's a subpoena.
If the U.S. Justice Department sent us a subpoena, it would become papier toilette.
Let's subpoena work logs, employee records, start with everybody who lives in the town.
Number 8. Mistrial. Sometimes things go wrong in a trial. Maybe the jury is biased. Maybe there was a huge mistake. Or maybe new evidence changes everything. And when this happens, the judge might declare a mistrial, meaning the trial is cancelled and must start over. For example, the judge declared a mistrial due to jury misconduct. It's like pressing the reset button on a case.
2 sweetest words in the English language. Mistrial.
All it's meant to do is just throw our focus off so that we can just move toward a mistrial.
Number 9. Acquittal. If someone is found not guilty, they receive an acquittal. It means that the court didn't find enough evidence to convict them, so they're free to go. For example, the jury's verdict resulted in an acquittal, and the defendant walked free. But remember, acquittal doesn't always mean innocence. It just means that there was not enough proof to convict.
All of us, acquittal after acquittal after acquittal, until the stench of it reaches so high and far into heaven.
Carly's acquittal for the killings of 2 white men will do more for the black people of Mississippi than any event since we integrated the schools.
Finally, let's talk about the moment when someone is officially charged with a crime. This is called an indictment. For example, the grand jury issued an indictment against a suspect for a fraud. An indictment means there is enough evidence to bring the case to the court, but it doesn't mean the person is guilty yet.
Chances are you won't even get an indictment.
Well, that's quite an indictment coming from a Corleone.
And imagine how impressed I'll be when you get an indictment.
Now that you know these powerful courtroom terms, try using them in your own example and comment them below. I'd love to see what you come up with. If you enjoyed this lesson, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you won't miss any advanced English lessons. Because remember, words are power, and now you've got the vocabulary to command the courtroom. See you in our next lesson.